What do you wish people better understood about your viewpoint?
I feel like a lot of people aren't aware of what's happening like in Israel. I was like talking to people in like public schools and they don't educate them. You have to like hear both sides without just choosing one side. You have to hear it out.
I think people don't really understand the full picture from the Palestinians and the Israelis' point of view.
If people were to get themselves more educated, know what kind of world they're living in right now, then we would have more quality, more understanding if you could just see both sides.
This began way before October 7th. It's like October 7th was the day that they kind of rebelled from stuff that's been going on for almost a century.
We're cool with the Palestinian people. We don't like terrorism. And what happened October 7th was terrorism. It wasn't freedom fighters. It wasn't any of that. It was terrorism.
This is just kind of like against all the injustices that Israel has done throughout its entire life. This is apartheid, genocide, and everything that's like going on. I am Palestinian. I do have family that is directly affected by this. My dad lives over there. He's in the West Bank, which is not Gaza, thankfully, but he is telling me that Israel is attacking the West Bank as we speak, and there's no coverage about that.
All we want is peace. And I know a lot of people out there have other opinions about, oh, we don't want peace, occupation, things like that. But we also have the right to defend ourselves.
I'm a Christian, and I feel that Israel, they were promised that land. They're God's chosen people. I feel like awareness needs to be spread about it because a lot of people are on the wrong side of this.
Clearly, this is a humanitarian issue. As a healthcare worker, I think it's very important that we look out for others. I grew up a child of immigrant parents. The country they came from was oppressed. Why are we not supporting other people who are under this same brutality?
There still has to be a moral distinction, and I think there's a difference between casualties that are a byproduct of striking strategic military bases and between casualties that are being raped, murdered, and beheaded to perpetuate hate.
I'm like, we're just human. What Israel is doing is just so wrong. Just be on the right side of fucking history.
I honestly wish that people will consume reliable information, not information from social media.
It's not an issue about religion, it's about genocide.
I think it's important to be able to practice media literacy, to do your own research.
Look from another point of view and stand in someone else's shoes. Maybe they can open their eyes a little more.
I think in order to understand, you have to have conversations. Without these conversations, there will never be peace. There will never be any kind of movement forward, and we will be stuck.
All of us are people. Think to yourself, what if it was my mom, my sister, my aunt, my grandmother, my brother, dad, etc. You have to think about it from an actual familial point of view. What if that was my own family? Now it changes their perspective from, oh, those Jewish people, to what if that was my people? What if that was my family?
Where do you think the common ground is on this issue?
I think the common ground would mainly be just to prevent death. Either side can see that it's horrible either way.
Both sides just want people to live. Why is this happening if we know that all we want is the same thing at the end of the day?
All sides can be for de-escalation and for an ending to the crimes against humanity that are occurring.
Everybody wants a safe place to live. Everybody wants to feel like they have human rights. How can we make sure that everybody gets those basic human needs of having a safe place for their families, of having a right to believe whatever it is that you want to believe without fear of death?
No matter who you are, no matter what you believe, people are still people and they exist as human beings. It doesn't matter who's fighting the war, a specific race, ethnicity. It's just people at the end of the day.
I think it's just religious tolerance. I am a Christian. I don't believe that as Christians we can just force a religion onto some other person.
I think on both sides there's this thing of wanting to see each other as more than just a statistic, as more than just news, as more than just numbers. All of us are just searching for community.
You're asking a question that people have been trying to figure out for 75 years now. There has to be a solution. I don't know what that solution is. I know that we start with a ceasefire.
So 90% of the other side just wants peace. 90% of us want peace. It's the 10% that are the problem.
It is a very beautiful dream for Jews to feel like they belong somewhere, but the truth is they really do belong everywhere.
I think that what's happening on both sides is terrible, and we as Christians believe that every person is created in the image of God and has inherent value. All the just the death and stuff is just, it's terrible. I think that's the common ground.
What do you think we can do to have better conversations with one another, especially given what's happening in the Middle East?
If people like really sat down and got their priorities straight, listed out what they want and what it's going to take to get there, I think that would be a great idea.
And when you have a civil conversation, you really get to understand each other's side, and by doing so, you create unity, you create one, and that's how you spread peace and love.
love.
Just putting aside our differences and coming from a place of common ground and opening up to understand one another, we can better be able to connect with people when we come from a place of empathy, when we come from a place of love, when we come from a place of wanting better for everyone, no matter what background they come from.
If you step back and put yourself in other people's shoes, I think it really can just open your eyes just to a lot of things in general.
I think it requires a level of humility to hear somebody else's opinion and actually contemplate what they're saying without just dismissing them for the belief that they held.
I think it's okay to be uncomfortable. I think we all need to sit in uncomfortability.
Practice media literacy, to do your own research. I think a lot of people our age kind of look to celebrities or influencers for information, and this is not one of those things to use their point of view to form an opinion on.
The best place to have conversations would be places like this. People from these rallies go to like opposing sides rallies just to be informed and just ask questions. I think that would be the best way to promote conversation.
Open conversations have like more vulnerability because a lot of people are hiding behind their careers, behind the consequences of standing up for basic human rights.
To put our emotions aside and think very logically and morally.
This is my favorite quote I've ever heard, and I think it's very important. A human rights activist once said, "Calling people in is an opportunity to grow. Calling people out is an expectation that you've already grown."
So we have to be willing to sit down and see eye to eye despite everything that we don't have in common.
You can touch the heart of someone else with the right words.